let your sexual energy be felt. Literally feel your sexual energy. What does it feel like to feel the tingles of your sexual energy? What does it feel like when you start to feel, quote unquote, horny? Right? What does it feel like when you feel horny? It's just your pineal gland is secreting, right? Your pituitary gland is secreting. That's when you start to really feel horny, because that energy is opening, right? That higher energy is opening. So what does it feel like in this? Because in this posture, what does it feel like, even in any yoga that we do together? What does it feel like to have that sensation of, oh wait, some sexual energy is moving through me. I feel it. I'm starting to feel like aroused. Right? That means there's an orgasmic flow happening within you, and if you keep riding that wave, right, just like sex or intercourse, with your partner, you get to what we call the climax. And the climax for orgasmic flow with ourselves and our sacred sexuality, with our own practice, with just loving ourselves, that climax we talk about is when you really ride that wave, right? You really ride, and how we ride that wave is become very sensitive. So when you feel that sexual energy moving, become very sensitive to it, right? Really go into it, move it, be moved by it. Right? The deeper you go, the more sensitive you become to whatever feeling of horniness, being horny, or the sexual energy that moving through you. The more you're going to ride it, and the more you ride it, the more you ride it, the more it moves, and more it moves, and more it moves through you, and the deeper it moves, and the more sensitized, and sensitive you become, you get very ecstatic with it. And when you become ecstatic, that's what we call a climax. That's when you're extremely ecstatic. So in sex, basically, our vagina is very sensitive, right? We know that. Our clitoris is especially very sensitive. Our whole vagina is very sensitive. Our body as a female is very sensitive. So when you really sensitize yourself, even before sex, that's going to be even a deeper experience, right? In the way that you've already feel so sensitive in your body, and you're riding that wave, right? You feel the energy, you feel the sexual energy moving, and you're feeling really sensitized. When you are that relaxed and sensitive, especially in your cervix, in your vagina, in your nibbles, on even your skin, you're really going to take in the penis, we'll say, if you're a woman, and you're really going to ride it, right? Like riding the wave of energy, and you're going to become ecstatic, right? To be ecstatic is to be extremely sensitive with the energy. You're grabbing that energy, and you're allowing yourself to become very intimate, right? Very vulnerable and sensitive with it. And when you really do that, that's when you really start to feel the surge, right? That surge of energy that is always with us. We're always having a surge of energy passing through us. It's just a lot of times we're desensitized, so we're tight, we're blocked, we're uptight, so we can't even feel it. But we're always having a surge of energy moving through us, especially in the morning, right? We say from like 3 to 6. That's a time where we're really getting a surge of energy. And we say in the afternoon from like 4 to 8 p.m. That's when we're getting a deep surge of energy. When we have the sunrise and the sunset, it's a deep surge of energy. But we're so desensitized that we can't feel it, right? You can't ride what you're not grabbing into your body, right? It has to come, you have to ride it, right? You can't ride a horse if you're not on the horse. So if the horse is by you, you got to jump on the horse and you got to ride, right? So when we feel that sensual energy, just ride it, right? Ride it and do something with it. Play with it, right? Play with that energy in your thoughts and your mind, to allow your mind to play. Allow your body to play. Allow your spirit, your energy to play. Become very playful with that sensual, sexual, creative energy that always we become very sensitive to when we are doing these practices. So allow yourself to become very, very sensitive to it, and therefore it becomes very pleasurable. And then you become very ecstatic. And then when you become very ecstatic, it opens up to you, and you really start to feel your body in this most energetic, enthusiastic, pleasurable way. So the more sensitive, the more sensual you can feel in yourself. The depth then has no end. The bonding, the connection to sexuality, it just keeps unfolding and unfolding to you. The more you play with it, the more you discover, the more you move it, the more it opens to you. Inhale. Exhale. Okay, release the hands. Definitely feel that. Okay, so there you go. That was a meditation, kind of like a movement meditation, a Kriya, for prosperity. So for me and what I'm feeling, I don't know what y'all feeling, but I definitely feel my whole, like this whole, you could say the third eye, the place between the eyebrows definitely feels very stimulated. And again, when that place between the eyebrows feels very stimulated, usually for me it feels like there's something like a light just like beaming on my forehead or just on this place, and it just like feels really like a lot of pressure. Almost like someone's like pressing their hand onto my third eye. It feels like a lot of pressure. And usually when I feel that, automatically I start to feel the sexual energy open. So there's definitely a correlation between the opening of the third eye and the sexual energy, right? I start to feel automatically like, whoa, this is opening, right? Sexual energy is opening because that third eye is opening, right? So especially when you're with your partner, like when you're literally, you're getting very ecstatic, you're really getting sensitive, right? You're becoming very open, relaxed, and loose, right? And the person's going even deeper and deeper, right? You're going even deeper into each other. When you look into each other's eyes, especially when you get to that point, right? Just like look each other in the eyes, you are automatically, you talk about, the third eye connecting. That's a real thing. The third eye connecting, when you look into each other's eyes, when you're both like in sync, when you're both like in that rhythm, right? You're both kind of sensitized to each other, and you're both in the same ride, right? You're like on the same horse, but it's like two people, but you're both riding. When you can feel that energy wanting to get to that peak, like literally you're about to peak over the mountain kind of thing, literally, which means like a lot of energy just wants to kind of burst, right? That all of that energy that's been building, it just wants to burst. Right? Just like anything creative, like you want to burst with creativity, right? Passion, right? Bursting of all this like passion. Look into that person's eyes, and literally, automatically, you will like literally that energy will be transferred into like a soul kind of grand epiphany that you can have with someone. Right? Like when I say this like soul epiphany, means like that's the deepest bond you can have in that moment where literally you're orgasming and you're looking in that person's eyes. Do we do that? A lot of times we orgasm like closing our eyes and like kind of backing off, right? But when we orgasm, literally we automatically, whatever we're doing, if we're like looking down or looking up, or I don't know what you're doing, but literally when we look at their eyes, they look at our eyes, right? When you're orgasming, that's what you call a soul epiphany. Literally, that's when your soul bonds with that person, right? When you orgasm, and then you like you literally open up your mouth, you may even say something while you're orgasming, like whatever it is, just opening up that throat. And when you really open up that chest, instead of like going like this, right, really like literally when you're about like open up the chest even more so it can move into this chamber, big chamber. And then when you open up the mouth through speaking, right? Screaming, whatever, people do, right? But when you look into their eyes, that's when everything links up. So a lot of people were like screaming and we're hearts open and, opening up, the orgasm, but then we're like looking on the side, or we're closing our eyes and we're checked out somewhere else, like fantasy land, right? Or the guy's and he's ejaculating and he's like in some, fantasy land or something like that. That is like, and that can really like, literally you just kind of cut it short. But when you look, literally you become present, like you drop in, you get out whatever, higher dimensional, whatever you're doing, you drop in, right? When you orgasm, you get out of that, the theoretical, like, sex orgasm thing, and you drop in through the eye gaze. That's when you have that soul epiphany with that person that is undeniable, unforgettable, in the way that you actually get to all of the layers of whatever that person's fears, anxiety, whatever your layers. It literally just, in that moment, the orgasm, with all the connections, all of that comes out, and you literally just connect and bond with that person as their most original, unique essence. And that is the most unforgettable bond, in the way that we create a connection with that person. And that is something very rare, something very special, something that we fear, because we don't want to have that with the wrong person, right? We don't want to have a soul bond in that way with somebody we know is not our partner. So a lot of times when we know it's not our partner, we don't look at them. When we know this is not our life partner, when we know this partner is not, it doesn't make us feel safe, or we don't entirely respect them, or we know they don't entirely respect us, we'll close our eyes, or we'll look down, or we'll just, if we're ejaculating, orgasming, we just won't look at them, right? Or we'll look at them, but we'll just like kind of like sort of not really open our eyes. We'll just kind of be like a little bit, we'll be in La La Land. Literally, we'll be like, okay, I'm just gonna visualize somebody else, or like I'm gonna be, in the fantasy land, right? When we don't really know, when we know that soul bond is not really for our highest good, or it's not really a right fit for us, right? And we all know on a soul spiritual level, because that soul bond I'm talking about, that I is really something we share with our pod, right? It's something we share with our soul team, right? Because that soul epiphany is really something we want to share with a soul team that really understands us, because we've shared multiple lifetimes with this person, right? So when we really open up, we talk about soul epiphany, opening the eyes, and orgasming, and we're looking into the eyes of somebody we've known throughout multiple incarnations. That's like a soul team, like an ally, a soul friend, a soul member, family member, like a pod of orca. That's when we really get to like, whoa, we experience that ecstatic sort of emergence of time and space, right? But that's something that we cannot intellectualize, right? I'm trying to, communicate in a way that creates a picture for your mind and your heart, but it's something you have to experience within your own physical body, right? And this is a practice that can help you. All of this Kundalini yoga is really is a practice for you to really open up to that and really sensitize yourself to those sensations of soul epiphany, looking in the eyes of what does it mean to have like time and space, like real connection with this person, all of a sudden just comes together. Like all of the lifetimes you've shared with that person, all of a sudden in that like orgasmic sort of where you're both like bursting, right? And you just capture that in the eyes, like you just get out of fantasy land, you drop in through the eyes. That's when all those past lives all of a sudden just like they all kind of come together, and it's like whoa, right? It's like whoa, that kind of experience that you can have, right? But again, it's something you have to be sensitive to. And again, that eye look, we don't have that with everybody. That's something very special, right? We're not going to have it with, we can go out there and look for it in all our sex partners and stuff like that. But it's really something special in the way that we have to actually have that soul teamship with them, right? In order to really, for us to get it and for them to get us, and for us to get them. To get somebody on a very deep level is not something that, I mean, we all get each other, right? Because we're all in this together. We're all in this together. But there's certain sort of connections that we have that are very much, what do I say, eternal and timeless, I like to say. We have those certain connections, and that's what I call having a soul ally, where it's almost like a timeless, like you pick up where you left off, that kind of feeling. And that's something very special, and that's something that we begin to discover and begin to unravel when we start to get ourselves, right? We have to get ourselves before we can get somebody else, right? We have to know ourselves before we can really know someone else, and know someone like on a deep level, know someone for their soul rather than, their ego or their, mind games or whatever sort of facade they present us, right? We have to know ourselves. We have to be authentic. If we want authenticity from them, we have to be authentic, right? Because it's a two-way street. Authenticity is a two-way street. It's like a mirror. A mirror is like a reflection in the person. It's kind of the same. You have to mirror that. If you want to pull that out of someone, you have to be that, right? The greatest kind of inspiration is to be what you're asking for, right? So if you're really, if you're a woman, you really want authenticity and intimacy and vulnerability from this male who may be, guarded from it, right, is to basically be that sort of mirror to him, of literally be that person who's literally overcoming guardedness, right? The person who accepts intimacy, right? Who is patient with intimacy, right? And over time, what happens is kind of like we are affected by who we hang out with, right? So if we're hanging out with that and we're looking in the eyes of that, like looking in the mirror, and we're seeing somebody who's open, that automatically kind of we start to naturally sort of just shift. We start to shift into that, right? Because it is, especially in that partnership, the strongest vibration always wins, right? And that can be the strongest vibration is we're both feeding off of each other's guardedness, and that prevails, where we're just guarded, or emotional, memories of the past, we're both kind of mirroring that back, that prevails. But if one really allows, like, let's say, like, whatever it is, like to prevail, like the strongest vibration wins, right? So if you want that strong vibration to be authenticity, just allow that to prevail. And I mean prevail over any sort of, whatever fear or trigger or insecurity comes up, allow that to prevail over it, regardless of the scenario or the situation or whatever's presented to you. And then find your sort of rhythm with how you can express yourself through that channel, right? In expression is hot and it's cold, and it's everything in between. It's not just, smiley. It's also very hot and steamy and like ferocious, and it's also sometimes cold. But to finding the kind of the rhythm with it, where if you want it to be authentic, to find the rhythm where it feels like it's bringing you closer to your balance, because that's what it is to be authentic. It's to really find your sense of balance in everything you do, right? Your sense of trust in yourself,